So, let's talk about the Oscars. So, as you all know, the Oscars is a very exciting time every year for many movie fans to see which movies will be considered among the best of their respective year and walk away with what is considered film's highest honor. Even amongst animation fans, even though the category for Best Animated Feature is a little bit predictable at times, or for the most part it can be predictable, it's always fun to see which movie will walk away with being considered an Oscar-winning animated feature. Especially when nowadays it is considered extremely rare for an animated feature to win an Oscar outside of the Best Animated Feature category. That category alone is always fun to see, especially when it's with a special group of fan favorite feature films of their respective year getting some representation. But then there is the other animation category, Best Animated Shorts. Unfortunately, that is actually a category that's been getting less and less popularity, where even amongst the animation community, it has often been overlooked to pay more attention towards the mainstream features and take a look at some of the more popular ones instead of discovering some new things with what would be in store with Best Animated Short. And the funny thing with the Best Animated Shorts category is that even nowadays, that is actually the category to which people dream that Best Animated Feature could be. It's the category where they could discover a whole bunch of new animated projects, most of which are actually 2D, or they're a lot more experimental with their animation. Not to mention that it's actually an animation category at the Oscars that Disney and Pixar don't usually win all the time. So it really is the category that people want it to be, but unfortunately, not many people care much about the animated shorts. Well, hopefully with this video, I'm gonna go and change that. And what better way for people nowadays on the internet to go and discover new things or new forms of entertainment than with an online review. And that is exactly why I am teaming up with Shorts, which is the company that would go and distribute to the public all the Oscar-nominated shorts, whether they be documentary, live action, or animation. And we are going to go and give more exposure to these shorts, to give a chance for the public, for people like you, to be a bit more familiar with these animated shorts, so that you have a little bit of an idea of what they are when they will be presented at the Oscars, and maybe have a bit of an idea of why which one would end up winning. Oh, and before I get into this, I just want to state right now that I am highly aware that my voice currently sounds a little bit different than usual. And that is because I just want to clarify that I have a little bit of a throat problem right now, but don't worry, I am currently taking care of it. And by the way, no, it is not what you think it is. So, what are the Oscar-nominated animated shorts of 2021? Well, let's find out. And the first animated short that we have here is Burrow, which is a part of Pixar's Spark Shorts program. And I think the first thing that I can say about Burrow is that this is a very cute and a very charming animated short. In fact, it's probably the most charming of the entire bunch, mainly because it has this storybook-like feeling to it. Even the animation, which is all in 2D, which, coming from a very CG-centric studio like Pixar, it is very surprising to see something 2D coming out of them. It does feel like a classic children's book that's coming to life, that does have a sweet and happy ending, and does have a little bit of a message about social interactions, which, in terms of that regard, it does have a bit of that relatability in a sense with how introverted the main character is. Because let's be honest, there are those times where we would have those moments where we do not feel like being social at all, and we actually put in a lot more effort into avoiding any form of social interaction instead of actually focusing on our main goal. So there is a bit of that relatability, but there is also that sweetness where it does ultimately pay off in the end. So overall, already we are off to a great start with the Oscar nominated shorts. And Burrow, I will say, is actually very cute, very charming, and definitely worth watching. Like, if you just want something sweet, if you want something wholesome to go and check out, then Burrow is definitely for you. Oh, and before I move on to the next one, I just want to go and quickly mention that even though I've already seen it a few times before, but upon this viewing, I actually did notice that there was actually a cameo from the small cat from their previous Oscar-nominated Spark short, Kitbull. So that was like a cute little trivia that I just discovered that I figured it would be worth mentioning here. Alright, so the next Oscar-nominated short that we have here is called Genius Loci, and I'm gonna be very honest, and I'll just start this off right now, that I honestly have a pretty difficult time in understanding what Genius Loci is all about. In fact, if I go into IMDb's webpage here, they stated that in terms of the synopsis of what Genius Loci is all about, it says here, one night, Rang, a young loner, sees the urban chaos as a mystical oneness that seems alive, like some sort of guide. And honestly, I don't know if I actually picked that up when I was watching it, because possibly the biggest criticism that I can give to this short is that it is very much style over substance, where instead of clarifying what is even going on in the first place, it is really focused on trying to deliver its art style, like really playing a lot with the abstract animation that it tries to deliver. And I will give it credit, it does look very good. Like, it really knows how to play a lot with the abstract style, especially with the way that it is so abstract to the point of being cubism. Like, there are some legitimate comparisons to the art style of Pablo Picasso over here, especially with the way that it plays a lot with lines and shapes and even a bit of different colors as well. And with that said, though, even though it does look very nice and it plays a lot with these abstract concepts, it's not very clear about what it's actually about. In fact, throughout the most part, I just feel confused about what's even happening in the first place, and it kind of just lost its way midway through, where we don't even know if it even has this concrete story that it even is trying to tell in the first place. Like, the only way that I could actually make sense with this animated short is that this is about substance abuse. This is about drug abuse, the kind of mental consequences that come with taking too much drugs. And often you would feel so out of focus, and your point of view on life is just so chaotic, where it really messes up not just your mentality, but also the world around you as well. That's the only way that I could make sense of this. But at the same time, Genius Loci does not necessarily emphasize anything, or doesn't even make that form of clarity that Rain even is on drugs or anything like that. Yeah, we do see her smoking a cigarette at times, but there's no clear indication that she is taking any hard drugs like LSD or anything like that. So honestly, this one I do feel like is the most confusing. I mean, technically, yes, a lot of people can interpret it as a very art house style animated short, and it does have its merits. Like I said before, the animation is definitely spectacular, but when it comes to this French animated short, I feel like it is the weakest of the bunch, because it is so vague in its concepts and its substance, where it really does feel overall like it is a style over substance kind of animated short. But at least that's my way of interpreting it. I could see a lot of really artsy people really digging this animated short, but for me, in terms of looking at the big picture as a whole, as an animated short, I don't know. This one I feel like it was the hardest to really get invested into. Okay, so now with that done, let's go and jump on to our next Oscar-nominated short, If Anything Happens, I Love You. Okay, I'm just going to be real for a second. I'll just say right now, you can actually go and check this animated short right now on Netflix. And what I'm about to get into, there will be spoilers to this animated short. And let me tell ya, we're going to get heavy real quick here. Okay, so the thing with If Anything Happens, I Love You is that it really starts off on a depressive note and then it just really goes down from there. Because this is about this mid-age couple whom seems like their relationship really is on the rocks and things are just really not working out well, especially with the fact that both of them are noticeably depressed. But then as it goes on, it starts to open up about why things are not going well with this couple. Like, why is it that they are in such a depressive state? And then we are introduced to the 10-year-old daughter. We start to see the life of what is actually this family and how they're all happy together and how things have been going so well. And even in terms of the little girl's life, it's been going great actually, even to the point of finding her first love. But then suddenly, we start to notice the answer starting to open up. Like, now we are starting to notice it's like, why is this couple so depressed? Why is this girl not in the picture anymore? And now we actually do have a clear answer. What happened was that the daughter died because of a school mass shooting. And the title, If Anything Happens, I Love You, is actually a reference to the last text that she ever sent to her parents. This is where it adds an extra level to the animated short, where now it is pretty much clear about what this is all about. It is a commentary about what people go through after losing their loved one over a massive tragedy like a school shooting, especially when that loved one in particular is their kid, like their daughter. And from there, this is where the animated short actually does have this new level to it, where it has that extra layer where now we officially know what this is all about. It is a commentary about the grief or life after losing a loved one after such an unnecessary tragedy like a mass shooting. And I just gotta say that just recently, I actually did do a big collab video with That Creepy Reading called the 12 Disturbing and Controversial Animated Features. And what he did was actually a last minute add-on, like before he would go and upload the video, where he would go and talk about this animated short in particular. And I remember that was possibly one of the best parts of that video. And I just want to say, like, the whole video itself was amazingly well put together, and I gotta give major credit to That Creepy Reading and his crew for creating such an amazing video, and I feel honored to actually contribute to that as well. But the big thing in that video, when he would go and talk about If Anything Happens, I Love You, is that you can actually hear him get very emotional about it. Like, you can hear him get so choked up when discussing about this animated short and about the events that happen in there. And I completely understand why, because unfortunately, this is a side that many people are trying to cover. That this is the kind of story that many gun lobbyists and politicians such as Ted Cruz, Lauren Boebert, and Matt Gaetz, they're trying to hide in order to make gun violence like these kinds of mass shootings look like something that is not as serious as it actually is right now. It shows a side that these kinds of people are trying to cover in order to pursue their own agenda. It is a true emotion that these people are actually feeling, that these are what people actually go through whenever they would lose a loved one because of these unnecessary terrorist-like actions, and that something should actually be done in order for less of these moments to go and actually happen. And that is exactly why I need to say right now that this is simultaneously both the hardest animated short to watch among all the ones that are nominated for an Oscar, but at the same time, it is also the most important Oscar-nominated short to go and watch. Again, it is available to go and check out on Netflix, but it shows a side that needs to be highlighted so much. That ever since the days of Sandy Hook, that many of these politicians are doing absolutely nothing in order to lessen these damage and in order to have less of these moments actually happen in real life. We need as many people as possible to see this animated short in order to understand the other side, the side that not many people look into in the first place. And that's why I feel like it is such an integral animated feature, and I absolutely applaud the filmmakers for actually creating this piece to give a voice or to show as a visual example of what people go through whenever they would lose a loved one in a mass shooting. And it shows that whenever these tragic events happen, it doesn't just affect the ones directly being shot, but also the people related to those that ended up getting shot. But now with that one covered, let's go and jump onto our next Oscar-nominated animated short, which is called Opera. And this one, I gotta say, I feel like this one is nominated more because of the technique that was actually put into it, because I gotta say, stylistically, it is massively impressive. Basically, the best way that I can go and summarize this animated short is that you got this pyramid, and you see what's inside this pyramid, every single little detail, where you see every little section that's in that pyramid where it has this animation loop going on. And in the animation loop, in a way, it pretty much explains this entire social structure that is currently going on, where people are going through their lives, and you see from life to death that people go through, and how this pyramid is keeping up in itself, and how sometimes it would ultimately lead to these massive wars that are going on. And ultimately, you see these like deity beings coming in, and sometimes they would go and hit the reset button in order to bring balance back onto this pyramid world that is currently happening. Or at least that is the best way that I can go and interpret what is going on with this animated short. And I will say this one actually has a lot of rewatchability value, mainly because of the way that there is just so much that is happening at the same time that you want to go and see it again and again to make sure you understand every little section that is actually happening, and make sure you want to see every little detail that is actually being animated, which in this one is actually a part American, part South Korean production that was done by a Pixar animator by Eric O. And in terms of the techniques that they have done in order to make this animated short, I definitely do applaud them. Now, in terms of the actual substance of what it wants to say, I feel like there is a part of it that may feel a little bit preachy. Like, it kind of has this Joker-esque, we live in a society kind of metaphor that it wants to go and present. But still, it is worth watching for the style. And at least, unlike Genius Loci, there is this message, or what it's trying to say is a little bit more clear than that one. But in terms of the technical achievement, what they have done, in terms of the animation that they have provided in this, I will say it is highly impressive. And on that regard, I can see how this ultimately ended up getting nominated for Best Animated Short at the Oscars. And for our final Oscar-nominated animated short, what we got here is Yes People, which a very interesting fact about it is that this actually comes from Iceland, a country in which it is very rare to hear about noteworthy animated projects that would come from there. But then again, it is very nice to see that a country like Iceland can actually get some notoriety at the Oscars with something like an animated short. But anyways, back onto the short itself. Yes People is basically this more comedic slice of life story that focuses on three couples living in the same apartment complex. You got the older couple, you got the very dysfunctional couple, where you have the man that is completely oblivious to everything, and the woman that's that's pretty much at the brink of just breaking down to the point where she is constantly shaking, constantly smoking cigarettes, and and constantly try to smug alcohol as much as possible. And then finally, you got the young couple living there as well. And you just see them go on their lives, what they do, and often how they would live, especially amongst each other in the complex. Now, they don't necessarily have much of a relationship with one another, but we do see the little interactions of how each of their lives can affect one another. Like one example is with the older couple where they got a little bit frisky, and when they were getting it on, they really get it on, and it's like freaking loud to the point where everyone in the apartment complex actually hears what is actually happening. And overall, I would say, in my opinion, it's okay. Honestly, there's not really a whole lot to say about it. I mean, it looks okay. The animation is okay with its computer animation. The plot line is okay. The characters are okay. Overall, it's hard to really say what is with this animated short. There's nothing really to highly praise about, and at the same time, there's not a whole lot to be highly negative or to really criticize about. Overall, I just find that all this is okay, and it is an okay animated short. I mean, good on Iceland to get something that is Oscar worthy, but honestly, it's not the greatest, nor is it the worst, and really there isn't just a whole lot to say regarding this one. So yeah, yes, People is okay. Now, with all the Oscar-nominated shorts covered, if I would have to go and pick which one I would like to see the most to win the Oscar for Best Animated Short, for me, I would either go with Burrow or If Anything Happens, I Love You. And funny enough, with both of them, they are both for the completely opposite reasons. On one hand, you got Burrow, which is this very sweet, very charming, very storybook-like animated short that is a lot of fun to watch, that has a lot of heart. And then on the other hand, you got If Anything Happens, I Love You, which talks about a very serious subject matter, and it shows this side that doesn't often get talked about a lot, which I feel like is very important for as many people as possible to go and check out, to understand a bit more about how mass shootings, like with what they would present in the short, could affect people even if they're not directly involved or inside the area that has that mass shooting. So honestly, those are my two picks. However, with that said though, to my surprise, we're actually not done here, because Shorts actually provided me 3 honorable mentions, 3 animated shorts that did make it on the short list, but they didn't make it to the nominations. So I guess they also recommended these ones because they're like honorable mentions and they were very, very close to actually receiving a nomination. So with that said, let's go and start off with our first honorable mention, which is Kapaemahu. And the best way to describe this animated short is that this is more like an educational cartoon that teaches people about the 4 healing stones in the island of Waikiki. And that this is obviously from a Pacific Islanders perspective, to which they are telling the story about the importance of these 4 healing stones, where they come from, and the deities that gave those healing powers to those stones, which are these very tall, non-binary beings that came into the island of Waititi and help out the people to show them their healing powers and to go and help the community for them to go and heal as well, which is why they gave their powers to those stones so that the island of Waititi can actually go and help heal the same way as those beings have as well. However, there is also a message that the power is failing a bit, or it's not as powerful as it used to be, because as time moves on and ever since we are in the modern age, the stories about those 4 stones are becoming less less and less prominence. They're not as well known as they used to be, and many people would often glance over. And it's the kind of story that's pretty much saying that the more the story is well known across the world, the more the power can actually come back to the stones, and that these 4 stones can actually go and heal people again. It's basically that kind of educational cartoon to teach people about an important piece in Pacific Island history. And in that regard, it is nice, it is informative. It's not anything spectacular in the veins of some of the Oscar-nominated shorts, but, you know, it does serve its own purpose, and you know, I could see this play often in Waikiki, where they would present what these stones are, and, you know, it does serve its purpose, and for that, I do appreciate it. So the next honorable mention, this is possibly the longest one I have to watch among all the shorts that have been given to me, and this is The Snail and the Whale, which is actually based on the 2003 children's book by Julia Donaldson. And just recently, as of this review, it actually won the Annie Award for Best Animated Special Production, which technically that's what it is. It is technically a television special that aired on BBC on Christmas Day. And I will say with this one, this is actually a pretty fascinating watch, and in a way it has a lot of similarities to Burrow, where it has that cuteness and it has that charm, especially when this is directly based off of a storybook. It truly does capture the feeling of that storybook charm. And on top of that, the animation, I will say, is absolutely beautiful. If there's one thing that this animated short does succeed, or technically this animated special, what has succeeded is actually getting the perspective of the snail, where you actually do feel like that snail on the tail of the whale, where you would actually travel the world and you would see all these extraordinary things happen, or all these extraordinary sights, which are beautifully rendered, beautifully animated. It is truly a sight to behold. Now, one thing I will criticize about is that this does fall in the same trap as many feature-length adaptations of children's books, where it does often from time to time feel like they would have to drag out plot lines in order to fill that long timeline. And there are times when it can feel like it does take a lot of its time before we jump onto the next segment. But again, this is all to say that I can understand why this is not nominated for Best Animated Short, because yeah, it does drag on a lot in terms of its plot line, but still I understand why it is on the short list. So very well done, and definitely is worth watching. And then we have our final honorable mention, which is to Gerard. And this one, I gotta say, among the 3 honorable mentions, this one is my personal favorite. The story with this animated short is that this is about this mailman who dreams about being this magician. However, unfortunately, he never does make his dream come true, but he did provide a little show in front of this little girl, to which he would go and do his little coin trick in front of her, in which it dazzled her. It really did amaze her. And then, by the way, spoiler alert at this point, many years later, we see the mailman. He is still a mailman. Gerard never made his dream come true of being a true magician. But then he got invited to this spectacular show of this very successful magician. And as it turned out, the magician brought Gerard onto the stage, and it's actually the little girl who grew up. It was the little girl who was inspired by Gerard's magic trick so that she would become a successful magician herself, and gave Gerard the opportunity to be a magician on the stage to go and perform his coin trick. And that one, much like If Anything Happens, I Love You, that honestly got me choked up. It really got me teary-eyed, but for completely different reasons. It's a very touching touching and heartfelt story where it actually does provide a great message that you don't often hear talked about every day, where you don't have to be a great influencer to greatly influence someone in their lives to go and become someone great. And that really is the true, well, no pun intended, but that is the true magic of To Gerard. How someone so ordinary, like a mailman, can end up influencing someone great, like that little girl who would become a successful magician. And also, another thing that I want to mention that is actually a pretty surprising fact about To Gerard is that this is actually from, believe it or not, DreamWorks Animation. And I'm not gonna lie, it has actually been years since I really loved something from DreamWorks that is actually original, that is not a sequel like Kung Fu Panda or How to Train Your Dragon. And that really did catch my heart right there. So honestly, kudos to the people at DreamWorks Animation for making something amazing like this. And I'm not gonna lie, the only thing that really does upset me with To Gerard is that it is actually not Oscar nominated. It truly did deserve the Oscar nomination. If I would go and make a little bit of a switch up with the nominations, I would go and immediately switch Genius Loci with To Gerard. It really is worth it because honestly, it is easily one of my favorite animated shorts that I've seen among this collection, up there with Burrow and If Anything Happens, I Love You. Now, I do understand that for many people, this is going to be a bit of a massive scavenger hunt to know where you could actually find these animated shorts, where some are on Disney+, some are on Netflix, some are on Peacock, some you have to pay online to go and watch it and all that kind of stuff. But don't you worry, me and Shorts actually have a way where you can actually go and check all these animated shorts that I have mentioned in one place. If you go in the link in the description below, you will actually find a place where you can actually check out every single animated short. That way, you can have just one area where you could just see them all, understand what they are, what message that they will convey. Maybe you'll have a little bit of a different interpretation of these animated shorts than me, but you'll understand what I'm talking about. And when the winner will be announced, you'll understand why that particular animated short won. So again, go in the link in the description below to go and check out all these amazing Oscar-nominated and almost Oscar-nominated animated shorts. And that is going to be it with this review. I would just like to go and give a massive thanks to the people at Shorts for not only sponsoring this video, but also to have this collaboration in order to go and have me do this review for the animated shorts. It is even very helpful for me, considering that I have made a commitment starting years ago where I wanted to see every single animated program that is nominated at that respective year at the Oscars, and I'm glad that I have managed to do so with this one, that they've helped me out with this, and also to help you out to understand a little bit more about these animated shorts so that you could be more familiar with them. Again, I always do feel like these animated shorts deserve to have more exposure, especially amongst the animation community. So with all that said and done, I would like to say thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, see you later, dudes!